Hello and welcome to Chocolate and Cheese with him and her.
Ta-da!
That's right. Now, Lou, you are very funny. You just made me laugh straight away by pushing the button with your middle finger just to distract me and make me laugh. Why do you keep doing that? Always in the beginning. I never know what you're going to do. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so today's show is all about kissing. A special show about kissing. Now I know, Lou, you just told me I am such a moron.
Valentine's
I know.
Long time ago.
I know.
I know, still the same month.
Yeah.
But it's too late.
Yeah. But it would have been great to actually use this topic on Valentine's. I know, I messed it up. So, but hey, it's still February, so let's do it now. So it's all about kissing, and I have some very interesting facts about kissing, which our listeners might not know, and maybe neither do you. Okay, now, do you know what philematology is?
Filmatology?
Yeah.
Like a filma?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with a firm. Well, I'm actually going to tell you what it means. It is actually the science of kissing.
Oh.
Yeah, there's actually scientists who don't do anything else apart from studying kissing. It's absolutely a fascinating topic. I mean, it just goes into things like, well, why are we kissing anyway? I mean, it does things like, well, apparently, in humans, 95% of all cultures actually engage in kissing. There's a couple of cultures, where this is not so common.
Japan.
But, well, you still kiss. But it's looking at, where and when and also why. I mean, there are various theories around why people actually kiss. I mean, where is it actually coming from? There's this theory, it's maybe, something about, feeding each other. Like when you look at some animals like birds, they feed their youngs, like with stuff that the parents have in their mouth. But I mean, similarly, humans do that as well, when they give something to the baby. Or maybe this whole thing about breastfeeding, it kind of like the sucking movement. So there's loads of things around that. So that's philematology for you, which is actually our number one interesting fact. Which reminds me, I have 8 for you today. Which,
Again, almost.
yeah. I'll never make it just to 10. I mean, I've been picking my brains. I try. I think maybe in a couple of weeks I will actually be able to compile a list of 10. Yesterday was 7, which I think was actually an interesting number. Because I mean.
So tomorrow gonna be 9.
No, tomorrow we're gonna do something else.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was number 1. Lou, what comes after number 1? You have to say it.
Number 1.
Yeah, and what comes now?
Number 2.
Number 2. Interesting fact number 2. The first time that 2 men kissed on screen was in 1927.
Ooh.
Okay. This was actually a war movie called The Wings. It was about 2 soldiers in the trenches, engaging in a passionate kiss, or maybe it was just a quick peg. Not quite sure. This is really, really interesting if you look at the history, of on-screen romance, in society, like relationships between same-sex couples. We don't want to forget that until the 70s, there was this huge thing about, criminalizing, same-sex behaviors. There was criminal acts actually, or people would end up in prison for doing stuff like that, or would end up in insane asylums, So we're gladly actually it took until the 70s that people started, let's decriminalize this behavior, and it actually took until like 2003 that at least in America, they stopped, with this, witch hunt against, same-sex relationships. But anyway, it's getting.
So why on the movie? Why these 2 guys kissed?
I don't know. Maybe it was just a friendly kiss, or maybe they had, a romantic feelings towards each other. But the interesting thing, it wasn't such a big thing actually, because at that time in the 20s, apparently, I've read this before, that kissing among soldiers, wasn't seen as such a big thing. Maybe it was some kind of like a brotherly kiss or something. So maybe it wasn't seen as sexual as stuff.
Because I have heard that some of the cultures,
2
guys holding hands together when they are walking.
That's another really good point. You obviously have cultural differences. And you also have like like kisses. Even like in East Europe or in Russia. Where it's actually quite common. Even politicians sometimes you see they really go in a deep embrace and even kiss each other. While maybe in the more Western cultures like Europe or America, you wouldn't see that. It's less common. Amongst same gender. Anyway, swiftly move on.
Number 3.
Very good. Thank you very much. That's really helpful. Now, 2/3 of people, there's some studies around this, 2/3 of people tilt their head to the right when they kiss.
Huh?
I mean, actually,
really?
well, that's quite convenient, obviously, because when both people do that, they can actually interlock. If they did the same, if one, well, actually, no, I'm confused now.
I think left.
No, if both basically go to their right, or if they go to the left, they can actually interlock. Otherwise, they would bump their noses. Okay, so this makes sense. Now, actually, a lot of things are actually appear to be that most people have a dominance. Sorry, have a oh God, I'm completely confused myself now. Like they have a dominant right hand, or they have a dominant right foot. Okay, so most people are actually right-handed, or they are right-footed, whatever you might want to call this. So it's not too surprising that maybe even the kissing itself is something where people just tilt their heads to the right. I just found that interesting. That it's similar to being right-handed. A lot of behaviors tend to go towards the right, not in a political way. Anyway,
4.
Number 4, very good. The average person, this is great, spends 2 weeks of their life kissing. Okay, so nothing else but just kissing. Like no interruption whatsoever. Okay, so that's what they do their entire life. 2 weeks of just kissing. That's 14 days. That's 14 times 24, whatever that is. Just kissing. Just to get you a bit of an idea. It's not as long as obviously sleeping. We talked about sleeping before. But 2 weeks. I found that an interesting fact. Number
5.
Number 5. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. The longest kiss ever recorded lasted 58 hours, 35 minutes, and 58 seconds, and that happened in 2013. It was a Thai couple. 58 hours. I mean, let's think about this. Yeah, this is 2 days of doing nothing. Well, actually, it's 2 days and 10 hours. No, sorry, 10 hours. Yeah, so 2.5 days almost doing nothing but kissing. This is unbelievable. Okay, I've actually seen. You can see this on YouTube, like kissing marathons. Obviously, I wouldn't sit through 58 hours. And they obviously have break times. They're allowed to go to the toilet. They're allowed to eat. They're allowed to even rest. Okay. But most of the time, they would have to engage in 58 hours. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And to be honest, I mean, they don't actually. I mean, this is not really kissing anymore. They're just touching. They're connected by their mouth. Yeah. I think at the beginning, it's still, maybe for the first few seconds, it's still passionate.
Are they a couple?
I think this was a couple. Yeah. So 58 hours. So if any of our listeners wants to break that record, would be very interested. You would have to go for 60 hours. And don't forget, this is actually 2.5 days of doing nothing but kissing. And I think you have to actually do that with another person. So kissing yourself, that wouldn't count. Which number are we now?
Number 6.
Number 6. Very interesting. Kissing someone is more sanitary, more hygienic than shaking hands. For example, if you want to avoid a cold. Now that puzzled me a little bit. I thought, if you kiss somebody, I mean, that's kind of like, okay, so you have all the bacteria in your mouth. Why would that be so similar to the hands? Now, you have to. Well, actually, yeah, you have to. It's not like French kissing or anything like that. Yeah, it's like a greeting kissing. It's like the French do. You kind of only touch each other's cheeks. Or maybe like a little peg on the cheeks.
Because clean.
Well, actually, that's true. Exactly. The faces are actually much cleaner than the hands, because with the hands you touch anything, and you don't constantly wash your hands. You don't constantly sanitize your hands. For that very reason, this kind of, I mean, we're not talking about deep tongue French kissing kind of thing, because from that you can get all sorts of diseases. You can get herpes. You can get. But you can actually get the cold, and also all sorts of other illnesses. But I think the important point here is that shaking hands, you know, simply because, well, our hands are quite dirty because we use them all the time, and we also then, and this is really what makes people sick when you shake hands, is that you then, you know, you might rub your nose, or you might, you know, you might just, you know, you eat something and you put that into your mouth, and that's how you get it, you know, apart from obviously the airborne stuff that's going on when people sneeze and all this kind of thing. So that was quite interesting. Number 7. Good. Actually, yeah, number 7. This is quite cute actually. I didn't know this before. When you are finishing a letter, or when you are finishing an email, because I mean, who writes letters anyway? That was a bit of a weird example. Okay, when you text, or when you write an email, and you're very familiar with somebody, and you just want to say like, you know, love you, and what do you put in the end?
Kiss, kiss, kiss.
Yeah, how do you put that?
Cross. XX.
XX, exactly. Why is it actually an X? You know why that actually is an X? I never thought about that actually. Why is an X?
I think that Miffy character's mouth.
Okay, who's Miffy? Is that a Japanese character?
No, that's the. You don't know the bunny character?
No, I don't.
Very simple bunny.
Okay. And the mouth has a shape of an X. Right, okay. That's what many people actually think, that it's either the mouth itself, or that it's almost like the sound, like, you know, like, yeah, like that sound. Well, apparently, it's kind of similar to the mouth, but it's actually 2 lips touching during the kiss. You know, it's like these 2 arms of the X. That's the touching lips. This bit here, the interconnection. That's the actual kissing thing. That's where this is coming from.
So grotesque.
No, it's not that grotesque.
But
well, it's kind of like these 3 triangular shapes that actually touches, you know, from the X. So that's really what that is, you know. I didn't know that before. I found it interesting.
Okay.
And now
last one.
The last one. I kept the best one. My favorite for the end. Kissing somebody for 1 minute burns about 2 calories. Now this is really interesting. This is really interesting for those people, you know, who are, you know, on a diet maybe, or who are having a very strict exercise regime. They are trying to be fit. Now you can actually get fit. You can get slim by just kissing. Isn't that fantastic? Now, the thing about burning calories, I mean, obviously it depends how you kiss. I mean, there's some. It's really interesting. Again, this comes back to the science of kissing. Okay, so if you engage in like, you know, in a very passionate French kissing, you know, this kind of thing, it can be up to 6 to 7 calories. So it depends a little bit, but I think the average is about 2 to 3 calories. Let's say it's 2 calories.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if you think about certain foods, for example, I like to use the example because it's like the only food where I know exactly how many calories are in there. It's a Big Mac. Yeah, a Big Mac has I think 500 calories.
Okay. So how many times?
So that would mean 200.
How long?
Well, if you burn 2 calories, it's 250 times 2 would be 5. Okay, so you would need 250 minutes to burn those calories. And 250 minutes is about 4 hours and 10 minutes, of kissing. Maybe not after. Maybe you should do that before the Big Mac. But that's it's interesting, you know. But obviously, if you're trying to completely get rid of exercises, then if you think about it, you normally have about 2,000 to 2,500 calories. You have to do the maths, you know. So you're then talking about 1,000 minutes, that's probably almost impossible to do, because we're then talking about, I don't even know how many hours. Would that be 13 hours or something like that of kissing? So I think maybe you will have to stay with doing some exercises, you know, and maybe reducing the food intake. If you actually, maybe you can combine it maybe with the kissing. Now anyway, Lou, which one was your favorite fact out of these 8? And be honest.
Be honest?
Yeah.
The kiss mark.
Okay. So that's something. Did you know any of these actually?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
I don't know.
Good. Well, be curious. I hope that our listeners found this intriguing and interesting. And if you have any other interesting facts about kissing, then do let us know. You can get in touch with us actually. I've never mentioned this before. We have an email which you can contact us on. It's on chococheeseshow@gmail.com, or you can hook up with us on Twitter also, Choco Cheese Show. Yeah, that's just the Twitter name. So let us know what you know about kissing. Otherwise, all I have to say now is
Kiss, kiss, kiss. Bye bye.